If you talk, then I can fiddle with the
Okay.
origin presentation.
Let's start questions then.
Yeah.
Or comments. Yes. We don't have another. Maybe if you stand and speak, we can.
All right.
See if
Well,
it's.
I'm John Boyle from Canada, and I'm an environmental impact assessment practitioner. I'm the guy who works in the trenches, actually, writing these things, mostly. And particularly, I'll just throw this up for discussion. I think, particularly for screening and scoping, I think we're the victims of our own success. I mean, impact assessment has been it's gone everywhere in the world. Every government has got regulations, they've got processes, they've got bureaucrats running things. It's taken off like wildfire and it's been used everywhere. And so I think in the process, especially screening and to some extent scoping, has been institutionalized. There are thresholds, rules, it's written down in regulations. So, you can be frustrated by whether a project should be having impact assessment or not, but it sort of doesn't become very well, not very intellectually attractive anymore because the bureaucrats have got a hold of them. And the same thing for scoping. My experience is all over the world is that the screening and scoping decisions get made by government officials. By and large, they are young. They've never written impact assessment in their life. They are risk adverse. Any issue, any concern raised by the public, they put into a terms of reference because they don't have any skin in the game. They're not accountable. And so you're just, it's amazingly frustrating, but you don't have any, it's gone. You don't have any influence. So there's no opportunity for what we said, courage, to apply courage, or even judgment. Because if they miss something that becomes a political issue, and they've screened it out, even if it's trivial, even if it makes no difference to making a decision, their access on the line, and they want that. So I think we're victims of a hugely risk-averse, inexperienced bureaucracy that mitigates against making these kinds of, especially screening and scoping decisions.
But makes it orphan or not?
I think it makes it maybe an orphan to academics and researchers because it's more a political science topic than practitioners.
I think a very valuable comment. Okay, well, lots of people are now here, so you are lucky.
Hello, my name is Paul Sage. I'm a practitioner for a long time. Been doing environmental impact statements. And I think this is a great session. I appreciate you doing it. I think looking back and trying to understand whether we wandered away from fundamentals is a crucial question. I think another crucial question is how do we do that? I mean, why do we have 20,000 pages? And I think one key answer to that is litigation. I've seen that over the course of my career drive the course of the analysis. Creating parallel documents called administrative records, which are all about preparation for litigation. So I think litigation is an important aspect. I also think that one of the problems is that we write for multiple audiences. If you write a short document, the regulators aren't happy. It's not enough good science. If you write a long document, decision makers won't read it.
That's the purpose.
And if you are at all interested in the public, it becomes too dense. So you end up writing companion documents to talk about what you wrote about. Okay? And then the last thing, there are some drivers in terms of new regulations. It's been layered. And it's not necessarily, at least in the US, new legislation. It's regulatory agencies creating, through their own processes, new requirements that come into the NEPA documentation. And you can't avoid doing it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Who's next?
Patrick.
Okay, so lucky. Patrick was first. Okay, Patrick's first. Sorry.
This is Harry first. Thank you, Joe. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to hit just a few points here. I have to put a sales pitch into the panel and to you. An orphan in EIA is still agriculture, forestry, and fisheries. EIA has failed to deliver to these sectors? And can you think of any other sectors that do the damage to the environment and the ecosystem that these do outside of warfare? Now, Angus, you were talking about NEPA.
Yeah.
When I taught these courses, I made my students read the Act and read the writing of Linton Caldwell.
Yes.
Who was an architect of the Act, a good friend. He helped Canada polish its initial policy and procedure, which was formed by my task force. Read his book, 1986. I think he died about a year afterwards, Charlotte. But it's a fantastic book, and you need to read the Act, and then the regs that came out of that, including all the EIA stuff. What was the section? 301, whatever it was. And in the literature that came out after the Big Bang, and I like to think I was around when the Big Bang happened, the definitions of scoping and tiering came out, but you know, they weren't really well explained. There was confusion from the beginning, and I remember Bill Ross in Canada, my boss, Ray Robinson, preparing a long brief for the Brundtland Commission on significance. So those of us in FIRO plugged in on that, and significance was not well explained. It's not well understood. I hear what you're saying, sir, but really a lot of this is an academic discussion. We have to get back to say, well, what did people do with these concepts? In terms of the success in the States on follow-up, it's because of litigation, I think. In Canada, follow-up is one of our weakest points. It's our Achilles tendon. There's no money for it. I'm generalizing here, but these are points of importance. Let's see if there's something else here. I think I've covered my points for now, but thanks for listening to me.
Okay, no orphan anymore, eh?
You had a question, please.
Yeah, I actually have a question for the panelists. And do you think that your orphan in particular is an orphan because it developed, it reached a peak, it was sort of kind of at one point at its prime, it was like you had almost a perfect situation, and then it just you forgot about it, or is it maybe an orphan because we never actually got a handle on it in the first place? And I get sort of the sense in my own view that maybe screening and scoping, at one point we were doing it pretty well, and then just simply forgot to maintain it, and maybe follow-up is something where we actually never reached sort of an acceptable level in the first place. So I would like to hear your opinions on that.
That's a good question. Screening.
My answer to that would be, I don't think we're evolving the processes. I don't think we are, or the themes. I don't think we're critical enough. I think we get the rules, and then we have to abide by them. But we don't critically, unless there's a law reform process that gives you a process to actually try and change the rules for screening. You sit with it. And I think maybe, we are academics, so it's maybe our job, but I think we need more critical thinking around some of these concepts.
It seems to me that for scoping, there certainly has been a bunch of work in the past. I don't think its quality was as high as it needs to be, and it has fallen off since then, so it's both of the above.
For significance, I'm not 100% sure. I have read relatively widely and also know most of the classical texts and stuff. Perhaps it's just a dichotomy in terms of what has been said about it and what is actually being used by the practitioners out there. I've got a hunch this may perhaps make significance of screening, but then again, the mega events, the Fukushimas and the Gulf, ask us a question: if we didn't get it right for those major events, to what extent are we getting significance right even for the more mundane projects? So I think it's complex. I have asked myself the question that you've asked, so I don't have an answer, and perhaps that is one of the reasons why we should consider the orphanage and discover what are the real linkages and the real elements of areas of failure that we see.
I think all four of these ones, not so much tiering, but all four of these ones are all actually sticky issues. They're all pretty challenging. And they're also not very sexy, because they're all made, like, as Jos said in the intro, they're all major steps in the process. So screening, scoping, yawn. Let's come up with a sexy new acronym like HRIA.
We find a good acronym for scoping, and then we will do. Yeah.
And the other thing is that each of those things, at the early point John Boyle made, was about being in legislation and being regulated things. We get sort of swamped by that. So a lot of people say we should, for example, follow-up, say we should do better follow-up. What they mean is that the regulation, they mostly mean the regulations are deficient. And that seems to be the end of the story. We don't actually unpack the nuances of that, which is what Franz was saying, a critical sort of approach, and unpack these things. Yes, we're academics, but I think as practitioners, these things are very real because they are sticky. They're the sticky ones. They're tricky.
Yeah, I think that's why they are orphans. It is not because practice is struggling, and it is about the theory-practice interaction, which is not happening here. The critical reflection, and really to go on a higher level on the discussions about scoping and screening. There have been discussions, yes, there have been discussions on tiering. The level of thinking is not elevated, actually is going down if you're not careful. Where is this conference for? I guess to meet as practitioners, theorists, and the other way around, and to help each other to come to a higher level of just the basics. Otherwise, we are still in the swamps, and we should really go after 40 years. We should reach a higher level. Okay, first, Ben, because